This is a short tutorial on how to create schematics in the program Diptrace. So in the previous tutorial I showed you how to get these parts up here that we'll be using, and it's nice to always have a set of parts that you have already created, because otherwise you have to search for eons to find the parts that you really need and the size of the pins and things down that you're going to need. So to get started, we're going to use Arduino Nano. And I'm basically just going to grab it. You can see that's a schematic. That's what the board's going to look like when you make a circuit board. So I've grabbed it, and on my computer for some reason it doesn't want to show you dragging the part across, but it's there. And I go and I click, and there's my Nano in place. Now, for most of us, to get going with the Arduino Nano, you have to add a battery and a positive and negative to it. So I'm just going to switch over to basics. I'm going to add battery. I'm going to click it here. I'm also going to add a ground. I'm going to put my ground here, a ground here, and what's VCC, which is going to be up there. So the way a Nano works is you have to have, it can be powered by 7 to 12 volts. So this battery is going to be an external battery source eventually. That's just two wires that plug into a circuit board. So I'm going to take it, I'm just going to use a space bar, and I can move it around. And I'm just going to move these two parts in line, and then I'm going to connect them. So I'm going to zoom in here. And what I'm going to do is, with my left mouse button, I'm just going to click on the pin, and you can see it. I'll zoom in a bit more. You can see it go red. So when I click, it joins a wire or a trace. Okay, and I'm just going to simply go over to the next one. So in this case, the battery, you can see it go red again. And I'm going to click, and those are joined. Okay, this is not joined. When you grab a part and you bring it up and over, you can see that there's this little rectangle, square right here. Okay, that's not joined. See, I can move it. Okay, so you always have to make sure you left mouse click, and then you click again, and then it's joined. And now when I move the part around, you can see that, they're joined. Okay, so make sure you do that. So the very first thing you do with the Nano is you have positive to the in, right, and ground. Okay, and that way everything else is going to tie to these things. The next thing you do is, I'm just going to scroll down here a bit, is I'm going to attach a ground. So the Arduino Nano requires the ground to work. So when I connect this, like this, and I'm left mouse button clicking, and then to there, you can see now there's a dot. Okay, and when I move this around again, you can see that it is connected, right? And I can take my arrows and move stuff where I want it. Okay, so what this means is that this ground is connected to this ground, which means these ones are attached, right? So when I actually do this, you can see the blue here, but you can also see the blue coming up here when I do this, right here. I don't know if you can see it up in the top corner there. Okay, there actually shows that it's connected. Actually, hit F11, you get rid of the grid. Okay, so if I zoom in this a bit, now when I do this, you can see it go blue. Okay, so I'm going to turn F11 back on to put the grid back on. Next, the VCC, and I'm just going to connect this at the top. Now if you zoom out here, this is different now. This is 5 volts out. A lot of parts require exactly 5 volts for them to run. So you got to make sure sometimes in your schematic that, this V out and this VCC are here. Because what happens eventually is that anything where I put VCC will attach to this pin. Okay, so, all right, power going in, ground, right, grounded down there. Right, so I'm just going to do a simple, let's just do 2 LEDs. So I'll just grab an LED, and I'm just going to put one there, and I'll grab a resistor, and I'll put one there. And I'm going to make the schematic that's got, maybe 5 LEDs. Let's make it really quick. So what you want to do sometimes is label the parts as well. So if I take this part and I double click on it, okay, it comes up with this dialog box, and it's going to come up with the main and the value. This is where I want to put 220 ohms, because it's, or what the value of my resistors are, if it's LED 1, LED 2, okay, and I hit OK. You can see it comes up on mine, right? Now where that comes up, if I double click again, is because under markings. And when I click on markings, right, show default, okay, so what I could come into here is, by default it is the value, but sometimes you might have to go and actually put value in there. Okay, it's also justify. There's default, there's all different ones, so sometimes you might want to change where maybe I want it on the bottom instead. And I can hit OK, and you can see it switches to the bottom. So that's kind of where you do stuff in there. Okay, I don't need to do my LED, so I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm going to attach. Okay, attach that one, and I'm going to take a ground right away. And I'm going to put the ground in there. Okay, and I'm actually going to move this a bit closer. Now what I'm going to do is make this so instead of having to repeat this all the time, I can just highlight it. I can copy, Control C it, and I can paste it, Control V it, and you can now see that I've got a couple. Okay, so I'll do this. right? We'll only go 3 LEDs. And then what I'll do is I'll just take and say, okay, I'm going to go to this pin, I'm going to go to this pin, and I'm going to go to this pin. Okay, and that would be, right mouse click here, cancel. Okay, so that then would mean that these grounds, if I right mouse click on it or on the whole thing, you can see, sorry, I'm just going to get right close. You can see it kind of changing colors everywhere. Okay, there we go. So on the screen, you should be able to see over by the battery it's in blue, the ground at the bottom it's blue, and all the others are blue. Okay, and that means that everything's connected. Final thing I'll just do is just adding a switch over here. So I can scroll down under basics. There's different switches and things. So I'm going to use a push button switch that's normally open. Okay, so there's a symbol for it, and I put that in, right mouse click, click on the thing, you can see it goes blue. Then I can just spacebar again to spin it, and I'll go to the top, and I'll grab a resistor, and I'll put it in, and I'll spacebar it. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go grab a ground, put a ground there, and I'll put a VCC here. Okay, and then I can connect them. Those ones connect, those ones connect, those ones connect. Okay, again, double click here, go to main. I'm going to put this one to be a 10K resistor. Okay, and then, maybe this switch goes to a 5 for some reason. Okay, so once again, you can see when I highlight the VCC here, you can see on the top of the nano, it highlights blue as well, so I know it's connected. So that is basically how you create your schematic diagrams. And this is critical because if you mess up here, everything else from this point on will be messed up as well, and your circuit will not work. So this has to be absolutely perfect and right. And that's why you breadboard something first. You make sure it works on your breadboard, and then you use the breadboard as a guide to make this schematic diagram. Okay. So I'm going to finish off here, and then I will get back into the next tutorial, which shows you how to get from here into making the actual circuit boards. And that's the end of the tutorial.